Hey guys, thanks for popping by Meals for Mom's Moments. Today I'm going to share with you a quick chicken and rice dish that's very versatile. We're going to start with the skillet over medium heat. Got just a couple of tablespoons of olive oil, and by a couple, 2 or 3. I've chosen to use chicken tenders when you're in a hurry. Those are nice. They cook more quickly than the breast will. You can cut them yourself if you already have breast. If you don't, then you can purchase the tenders at the store. We're going to start by sauteing them and using a little bit of Italian seasoning on it, roughly about a teaspoon. We have a pound of meat in the skillet. I'm going to use some salt and some pepper on it. We're going to use peppers and onions today. And you don't necessarily have to have this item, but it'll just give you a little bit of extra if you have it on hand or if you want to use it. I was going to show you guys how to cut a pepper, and it's best to slice open instead of from the outside in, because you're going to be able to get all the way through the pepper. You can cut it however you want. If you want to dice it, you could do that. I just chose to do it this way because that's what I felt like doing. The onion, on the other hand, I've cut it just slightly different. I cut it in half, and then in half again, and then I'm just going to give it a quick chop. Doesn't have to be exact, and like I said, if you don't have this or you don't want to use it, then feel free to leave it out. Just kind of gives it a little bit more versatility as to a one-dish meal. The other key thing that will create our flavor in the dish are the canned stewed tomatoes. And in this, we're going to use Italian style, which already have all of your seasonings in it and everything. So this is basically going to be your sauce. The cool thing about this recipe is that you can make it totally different. If you want to use a Mexican style tomato and then do beef, you can make this dish twice in 1 week and your family would never know, because one day you're having Italian and one day you're having Mexican. So we're going to keep those on hand. We're just going to use 1 can. And right here I have just instant rice. So a cup and a half of rice, cup and a half of water, 5 minutes in the microwave. Today we're going to use Parmesan over the top of the chicken. If you were going to do the Mexican, you could use cheddar, or you could do a Mexican blend. You could do this a lot of different ways. You could even, if you'd like, instead of doing the rice, substitute a couple of cups of pasta instead. The rice is more quickly done because, it's microwave and you don't have to boil water and such. So this is just a quick 15-minute thing that you can throw together any night of the week. This is the Parmesan that we're going to use, and it's just shredded. You can do the shaved, just whatever you have on hand. If you don't have cheese, omit it. No big deal. We did use Italian seasoning, so if you were going to go the Mexican route, I would probably say to do, instead of a teaspoon of the Italian, I would do a half teaspoon of cumin and possibly a half teaspoon of chili powder. But again, just use what you have. You could do garlic and chili powder if you have those items, just whatever you've got. You can see the chicken's already starting to cook pretty quickly. And if we had breast, you would have to wait and wait and wait. I've turned the heat up to a little bit higher so that we can get that cooking. If you want, it doesn't matter. I'm going to stir the peppers and onions in. If you had, if you prefer a different vegetable and you have that on hand, then you could use that. You could do mushrooms or squash, zucchini, whatever your family likes. Don't feel like you have to use what we use. Also, if you, I don't know if you're familiar with it or if you've ever used it, but another good, if you want to try to get some different meat and variety in your recipe rotation, there is ground pork at the grocery store as well. And so it'd be kind of basically like cooking ground beef, but you're doing pork instead. And that, gives you a different option, a little bit different flavor in there. So we're going to just let this cook until your chicken's cooked through. And you can see how my pieces are kind of varied in size because I hand cut them because I did have breast instead of the chicken tenders. So I keep stirring them because I want them to make sure they cook evenly. If you buy the store butcher cut ones, they're going to be more uniform in size and shape, and so those will cook more evenly. But just keep an eye on it and keep stirring it. And I think I'm going to use a little bit more salt and pepper for the peppers and the onions. And just to taste, whatever, if you're on a low sodium diet, kick the salt. You'll be fine with the tomatoes because there's lots of flavor in there. The Italian ones have basil, oregano, and I believe garlic too. The Mexican style, depending on the brand that you buy, will have cumin, garlic. Some of them even have celery in them. It just depends on, you know, which brand you buy again. And it doesn't matter, and it says clearly on the label, stewed tomatoes, and then most of the time there will be a little banner and it'll say Mexican style, Italian style. If you have Rotel at home, you could even just use Rotel if you like it spicy. That would be an easy, quick fix. And you can see the chicken's already browning, and we haven't been cooking but very few minutes. So, we're getting there. And another quick tip, if you're in a hurry and you are doing a more time-consuming recipe, you can always use your peppers and onions and just put a tablespoon of oil or butter in a glass or plastic bowl and cover it with plastic wrap. Stick it in the microwave, and depending on how much you use, if you did 1 pepper and 1 onion, you would probably microwave it for about 6 minutes, and that will immediately soften your vegetables. So if you're running short on time, you can always replace that too, instead of having to wait on them. Let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and stir the tomatoes into the rice. And if you would like a more saucy dish, if your family's big on sauce, then you could also use a can of just plain tomato sauce, or you could throw in a little chicken broth if you're using chicken, or beef if you're using beef. Lots of different things you can do with this dish. And so basically we're almost done. Like, all you have to do is just make sure your chicken's cooked through. My bigger pieces are brown, so they're done. And we're just gonna turn the heat off and stir in, like I said, it was 1.5 cups of rice, 1 can of tomatoes. Just gonna stop with that. And then around my house, we love cheese. So we're always gonna have cheese on just about everything. So once you've got it stirred together and everything, we're just gonna get it all in there. Like good. And we're just gonna give it a sprinkle of cheese. Use how much ever you want. Use the whole thing if you want. The more cheese, the better, huh? Well, here it is, guys. 15-minute dish. Easy as Pete. You can't get easier than that. Very versatile. I hope you guys give it a shot. We're going to be doing Meals for Mom's Moments, and we'd love to have your questions or your input about what you'd like to learn. You can find us on Facebook. This logo is how it is on Facebook. You can reach us there, or you can reach us by our email address, and we'd love to hear what you have to say about Meals for Mom's Moments. Thanks for stopping by.